that meeting, I thought it would be a good idea to come back and talk about where we're going forward. So the goal of tonight is to try to get a consensus from council on how to move forward, what path we want to take that will help us get whatever items are necessary for our next meetings coming up ready. And I do want to just remind everybody, we are seated as Ways and Means tonight, so we won't be having any votes of any kind other than getting a consensus on a way to move forward. I know we have a lot of people here with us tonight. At Ways and Means, we do not have a public forum, but any items that come up on an upcoming agenda will have opportunity for public comment at that council meeting. If we could just start going through, so what we have today is 4 options to consider. Option 1 is one we've already discussed, the rescission and dissolution of CHEDA and establishing an HRA and creating a community development department. So issues or challenges, if you will, with this would be it's a lengthy process. We have spoken to HUD, could be costly with time. We're in a unique situation. That's not something that HUD deals with often. And it would require HUD approval. So they're going to want to review contracts, properties, and approve any transfer that's made. They don't really have a timeline on that. We would be subject to working with them. Benefits that we've already discussed, I'll just highlight them here, would be a reorganization. Economic development activities under new direction. Potential cost savings, we covered that a little bit at the public hearing. Again, the one-stop shop, getting your community development department under the city, utilizing city staff and your department heads who we expect and train and support to be subject matter experts, and increased oversight by elected officials of the economic development activities. We will go to your next page, option 2. These are options that are outlined in statute and want to make sure that we are discussing each path. So the second option is amending an enabling resolution that requires prior city council approval to exercise any of CHEDA's powers. There's also the removal for cause of individual CHEDA board members that could potentially then be replaced with city council members. Part of this option is, again, eliminate funding for economic development to CHEDA, the entity, and create a community development department under the city with its own budget. Issues with that? One, that's a hard decision to make. Individual public hearings before city council would be required for a determination. Removal for cause criteria laid out in statute includes inefficiency, neglect of duty, misconduct in office. That includes a potential temporary suspension of board members during the process while the hearing's being conducted until a determination is made. One issue is experienced commissioners could be removed, and then requiring the public hearing to simply amend the enabling resolution. Benefits to that option you will see carried through some of the remaining ones, but new commissioners are seated. There's been community feedback about lack of oversight of the CHEDA board, of the CHEDA staff, and of CHEDA activities. Reorganization of economic development. Increased oversight by elected officials. That was some feedback we heard, that while the city council members and the mayor are elected, CHEDA board is appointed, and that does create some distance between the voters. Housing programs would remain intact. CHEDA, the entity, would remain. Housing can go unaffected unless a decision by the board is made later. And as we stated before, that this proposal would require that city council approval would be made prior to any powers being exercised by the CHEDA board. Again, the one-stop shop, potential cost savings, communication and collaboration in one building, utilizing your city staff team and approaching projects as a team. Option number 3 could result in something similar, where an enabling resolution could be amended, requiring prior city council approval before any CHEDA powers are exercised. But the enabling resolution could simply change the makeup of the CHEDA board. We've discussed it a bit at strategic planning session. Statute does allow for the 7 city council members to make up a 7-member, our 7-member Cheetah Board. Along with that, would eliminate the funding for economic development to Cheetah and create a community development department. The benefits of this are it's politically a little bit more palatable than disbanding the whole organization, also having to discuss or determine if you wanted to take a removal for cause action. That's a tough one. This allows your Cheetah to exist. EDA powers would still remain under Cheetah, but would not be your primary source of your community development or economic development activities. The proposal here still would ask for a community development department under the city, community development budget under the city, but your EDA powers, which was one of the concerns raised in the Cheetah Board resolution that was adopted at their special meeting, was that there are things the city can't do that an EDA can do. In speaking with experts and then even hearing legal counsel for Cheetah, it's hard to define that. What can an EDA do specifically that a city cannot? We've had someone tell us they have reverter powers on land. Okay, leaving your EDA powers that exist under that board allows a community development department director, if those EDA powers are needed and in fact it is not something the city can achieve, you have that there. But they don't have to be active now, where that could be something that would be proposed through city staff. And again, city council approval will be your first stop before it would make it to the Cheetah Board. So it gives you that dual oversight by your elected officials seating on both boards. The Cheetah Board members would then be subject to the results of an election if the board is made up of council members. Not directly, not voted into a Cheetah position, but if the council members make up the board, it does give a little bit closer tie to the voters in the community on who would be seated on there. Realigning the priorities of Cheetah in the city. I think from my perspective, the two entities have grown apart and are not necessarily moving in the same direction with the same priorities right now. That's a struggle. That's a struggle to move forward when you're not going in the same direction with the same priorities. Creating some consistency of the philosophy between the city and Cheetah. Economic development activities under new direction at both the Cheetah and the city, and again, that dual oversight by the elected officials that could be seated as the Cheetah Board. Housing programs remain intact. No transferring, no review from HUD, because it would remain under the same entity. That has and is, I imagine, is still a big concern. We heard that in our public feedback. I've heard it personally. We've tried to address that. If there were issues with specific constituents, we've tried to address those. My recommendation I'm going to say it again, is to have the housing staff located at Oak Court. They, for one, would like that. I think it would allow better service to the citizens there in that facility. The potential cost savings still remain. One-stop shop, communication, collaboration, and utilizing city staff and approaching things as a team. Your final option that you'll see is similar to what we just talked about. The main difference there is through terms expiring, voluntary resignations, or removal for cause of a Cheetah Board member, you could, as a city council, begin replacing those members with council members. You're able to do that today, actually. So this one, the timeline to implement or see change would be elongated. I took a look at Cheetah Board expirations on terms. You have one in the end of 2021. You have 3 expiring at the end of 2022. And then 1 in 2024, 2025, and 2026. So just to give you an idea, if that was a direction you went and your intent was to replace council members on the board, that's just a little bit elongated timeline. Same benefits here. One of the challenges on either seating the 7-member Cheetah Board as council members or doing it over time is the decision on who those people should be. And that would be through recommendation of the mayor and then approved by the council as a whole. So that's certainly something to think about. From our feedback from the public, that I've had directly, that I've heard from some of you. I've attended some meetings through the survey, through the public hearing. My recommendation to you, from what I know and what I think we are trying to achieve, would be option 3. It allows you to amend your enabling resolution to change the makeup of the CHEETA board to be 7 council members. Still continue to create the community development department here at the city, create a department fund for that, and allocate dollars towards that. So if a proposal comes forward, it would come to you. It would be your decision then if in fact it is needed to go to the CHEETA board for EDA powers, it could. If it doesn't have to. And depending on what the project would be, that determination would have to be made then. Do any of you have any questions? I know I just went through that kind of quickly.
So the option, does all these options get the director of CHEETA under the city administrator and under the city umbrella?
I don't believe right now that either budget could support an economic development professional under CHEETA and the city. I would recommend, as I have from the beginning, is a community development department here at the city. Each options 2, 3, and 4 do say for the city to stop sending funds over for economic development and keep them here under the community development department, which I would envision would then support that salary here.
Okay, because I think the majority of the citizens of Crookston that took the survey, and probably some that didn't take the survey, I think at the end of the day, they want the director of CHEETA to answer to the voters and under the direction of the city administrator. So, I mean, just for myself, looking at these options, and then, you know, all the trouble that we would have if we just disband CHEETA altogether, I think option 3 for myself personally would be the best option, and that does everything I think that the city of Crookston wants, the majority of the residents want, and to try to get it under our umbrella.
Right, and know that what is decided by you on any given day, you are not permanently held to that decision. Things change. We're talking about things today because things are different. Things aren't working how they once worked when we felt it was good. That doesn't mean if something comes down the line, you're not removing your ability to come back and have this discussion and say, we would like to reseat this as a citizen board. Those options will not be gone to you. There's just a process to go through to get there.
So I tend to agree with that. I think initially, once we get this thing up and going, being the council members would probably be the best fit. Then later down the road, it might be an option for us to decide to put Crookston city residents on the board, possibly.
It certainly allows the council members to get a more in-depth understanding of what activities CHEETA is handling, what is going before them, also get a handle on what community development activities that you want to guide and direct. But again, you're not bound to that decision forever and ever. That doesn't mean we can't be back here having a discussion later about how that can look and why it should look different.
With you saying that the director would be under your umbrella, do you have the time and the ability to do that as far as what your job entails right now, as busy as you are in the city and everything going on?
I do believe so, yes. I am responsible today for being involved in economic development, meetings and activities. I do believe, yes, that myself and then our other city staff together can support that, having that department and the director under the city. Yeah.
The second question here says, utilize city staff expertise. What is that expertise that we have right now that, say, CHEETA does not have?
Well,
what is that expertise? I'm
well,
curious.
you have a public works director who is responsible for utilities, infrastructure. We have our building official who's responsible for knowing and understanding our building codes, our finance director. Those are the pieces that should be involved in every project discussion that right now are housed and hired and funded by the city. And it is difficult when if I'm in a meeting and I go and I need to go get answers from my staff and then it comes back to me and back, it's very inefficient. And I'm not a utilities expert. That's not what I was hired to do, that's not my training, but we do need them here. Those are important aspects of projects and projects discussions, and it just puts those people on one team in one place.
I mean, I've got that, a lot of that is one team, one place, and I totally agree. But as far as the housing economic development part of it, when it comes down to state and government funding, what is the expertise there? They don't have the expertise, they have the expertise but within the city.
For applying for?
Applying for,
Well, Joe,
taken care of, I just
the
kinda
city is
curious.
typically the vehicle for state funding applications. So the city is already responsible for doing that.
Okay. I'm just asking questions, so.
Yeah.
You know, having kind of read through, I know there's a lot of emotions. A lot of this is very personal for a lot of people. And it's hard to separate that sometimes. And I see in our public hearing that was very evident. And I don't want to focus on that. But what I do want to focus on is looking at our reports, our comprehensive plan going forward. And it's really important. And a lot of the red flags that we're seeing right now is the need for childcare. We're seeing the need for economic development. We're seeing the need for enticing families to come here and be part of our tax base and our school systems so we can move forward. And I think that we need somebody who is hired that is competent in that position, I think in the city space, full-time, that can do that. And I'm not going to say that anything prior to this is not competent. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I am suggesting, and I think it is very important, that we find somebody who is well-versed and can be a full-time person that's focusing on the needs that we're seeing in our plan. We can't be willy-nilly picking and choosing projects we're doing. We need to have a very comprehensive way of looking at these things. And you'll even note in the suggestions in our comprehensive plan that these were things that were suggested as far as economic development is concerned. And I think it is very important for us to have somebody that can do that, and not just do that, but to be transparent and share that with our city on a regular basis. We need outcome, evidence-based evaluations. We need to know that these are our goals, and these are the things that we're going to do, and these are the outcomes. And I think our citizens are looking for that. And there's so much, I think, and it is what it is. It's a small town thing where everybody's in everybody's business, and there's so many narratives that are put out into a city that can be very detrimental. And I think what is important for us is to show that we are doing these things, and these are the outcomes. And not these whispers, and not these people coming to us and we ask questions and then we shrug sometimes, or we don't have the ability to do anything about it. And I don't think, as a public serving entity with taxpayer dollars, that it should be that way. We need somebody who's focusing on these things and is being held accountable and is sharing with us and letting us know. And we need to do that in the most efficient way.
Did you not just say that?
We're talking about the hiring an economic development person. What happens in the housing programs then? Is that's a separate entity, and so we'd have to hire a housing person?
The housing would, under this proposal, would remain under CHEETA, and the housing budget currently has budgeted in for 2 housing staff and their maintenance person. So the housing budget should be able to support the staff.
As far as a director, you're saying that it wouldn't fit right now, it would be under you, because we could not afford to have one underneath, is that what you just said? As far as a director?
The budget right now, the budget is not designed now to support both a CHEETA director and a community development director. And the city is sending over $155,000 this year, but that, to CHEETA, but that we don't have the budget to support two directors, one under the city and one under CHEETA.
That's kind of my question on that. It says every option has potential cost savings. I have not seen anything, unless I missed it somewhere, that you were going to deliver a cost efficiency statement.
I did cover that at the public hearing.
You did, but you said you would give it to us when you get it type of thing, and I haven't seen anything. So where are we, where do you get that the savings is great if you don't have anything printed out on it?
I'm happy to print that out. You haven't asked me for it until today, and I
I shouldn't
didn't.
have to ask you for it. I mean, if you have information on, we're voting on this, I should have it in front of me, I mean, honestly. I just think,
I would be happy to get that to you. I don't have it here in front of me. And I want to be clear that never was my proposal that the best and most important aspect of this discussion was cost savings. It does create efficiencies. Efficiencies does not always mean dollars. It does create some, and I believe I gave you the estimate, which was very conservative, was around $40,000. I will get a copy of that out to you. I think it would actually be more than that, but we have to see what training. You don't want to eliminate your whole training budget for a director, I don't think. I wouldn't propose that. And I'm not even suggesting you would want to eliminate your programs. My pitch to you was not, this is a cost-saving measure and that is the only reason why it's important. For me, when I say efficiencies, I mean processes. I mean utilizing our resources. Resources is money, resources is staff, resources is time. So I don't want that message to be muddled with it simply being surrounded by budget cuts, because that is not what is most important to me.
I would like to say that of these options.
I think, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry, Wayne, were you going to?
Tom might be,
Yeah, I'd like to join in here if I can. Have you got cheetah board members out there in the audience? Yes. Okay, I know they wanted to speak about some of this stuff, and I know myself, throughout the years that I've been on the council, there's always two sides to every story. And I think before we do any voting on any of this stuff or anything else, there needs to be a meeting set up so you hear their side.
Tom, I'm going to repeat back what I think I heard you say, and then you tell me. I think what you're saying is before a vote is made, you would like to see a joint meeting.
Absolutely.
Tom, did we try that about a year ago?
That was a complete different deal.
I mean, we tried a joint meeting a year ago
Yeah.
and trying to, you know, settle our differences or our concerns or issues, but it seems like all the talking was out of council. We didn't hear anything out of the cheetah board.
The questions that were asked at that deal were,
Really no kind of agenda or anything else on that.
they had no time to determine, so
And I also asked the chair of cheetah, he wanted an agenda, and I asked him to sit down and let's do it together.
Keep hearing that about wanting to sit down and talk to each other and this and that. It never seems to happen. I just don't get it here. Why are we so afraid to let them talk and hear what they want us to say?
Tom, I think your question was, why are we afraid to let them talk and hear what they have to say? Well, this decision tonight, I need council's feedback on what
Giving it
direct,
to you.
what was
I
that?
think you need to listen.
In
You
order
need to
to,
listen to those people.
in order to facilitate a joint board meeting, one, these members should be seated as city council, not as Ways and Means Committee. Two, you must properly notice that up. You must alert the public that what your agenda item is. We were not properly noticed up this evening to have a joint board meeting, and these members today are seated as a committee.
Well, didn't you get a notice that they wanted to be able to speak at this?
On Friday at 4:47 PM. And that is not enough time to provide notice, and the agenda was out.
Well, then I guess this is a pretty important deal what we're doing here. I think when I listened to that public hearing last week, people wanted to slow down. And I think we need to take the time, set up a meeting then, put everybody we got to have on the agenda, and let them speak their piece.
50% were for this, 50% against. As I said, it was a mix of 50-50 in that meeting of the public. And it's one of those things, I agree with Tom about both sides of the story. I mean, if we want to have an open meeting with whoever and let them give, you got 30 minutes or 25 minutes, whatever you had to give the pros, but they never got, 3 minutes wasn't enough time for them to give their spiel. And the thought of transparency side of it, that we say here every single day, I think it's only right that we be transparent to let them feed their direction of what they want to see, or maybe they can work with us or whatever, but, the general public has not heard from the board members. And I think that's not fair to the general public that were at our meeting and listened to it, and they had problems with the transparency side of this, so I'd like to see it.
I hear what you're saying, Steve, but and possibly at the meeting last Monday night, it was 50-50. But if you consider all the Ward 4 comments, it's more than 50-50. And from the calls that I get since I've been on the council and before I got on the council, I have received one call, and that was just the other night out of hundreds of calls stating that we need to do something different with Cheetah and we need to get Cheetah under our umbrella. And if it was 50-50, I would agree with you from the response that I'm getting from people out of my ward and people outside of my ward. I mean, people are looking for transparency from Cheetah and they're not getting it. They're looking for change. They had the opportunity to make change several times. After the last city administrator left, we changed, the city council changed. Cheetah did not change. The meeting before last Monday, they doubled down, saying, we're not doing anything wrong. We're opposed to what the city is trying to do. So everybody is wrong according to Cheetah except them. They're not looking to make any changes on their end at all. And the city of Crookston, the people of the city of Crookston want change.
I agree with that 100%, but I just think to make a fair judgment of everybody, that give them their 5 minutes in court. I mean, it's one of those things that it's not gonna hurt anything, and you're gonna be better educated of and you can ask them questions.
I mean, so even before I got on the council, all this stuff was going on. What are we gonna learn from dragging this out even more? We know what the director of Cheetah is gonna say, and we know what the Cheetah board members are gonna say. I mean, I think that's a foregone conclusion. I mean, I think the city of Crookston residents enforce, I have to think that your calls are a little lopsided that you've been getting from the city of residents too, from the residents of Crookston as well. I mean, I certainly have, and it can't just be me. It has to be all of you guys as well.
I think that goes back to who you're dealing with too. I mean, the people that are gonna call me are for it, and for business and for this and that. I mean, some of the calls are from me that in the last week so if a business comes to town, it's gotta go in front of the public and the general things. A lot of businesses don't want that. How are we gonna contend with that? I don't know. I'm not saying that's the only excuse, but when a business comes to Crookston, they want transparency or whatever, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but maybe they don't want to be dragged into the public right away before they're making a decision on coming here.
What changes you sit on the Cheetah board. What is something that you think the Cheetah board is gonna say to me to help me change my mind?
I don't know. I guess, the whole thing is to be fair and transparent. I think they get their last 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever they need. We as a city gave it to the public, our side of it, 20 minutes with Amy saying what she wants to do. Give them their 20 minutes, all I'm asking. Whether you learn something from it or you don't, but I think to be transparent and be fair, I think the public deserves that too. I mean, there's people who are listening or into this thing at home that say, geez, I think I haven't heard both sides of the story, and the general public probably hasn't, It's one of those things, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but what I'm saying is, I think to be transparent, which we always say up here, to give them their 5 minutes or 20 minutes.
Steve, I think that we have given the city some transparency through the surveys that we have written or taken, and the people in the city also had a chance to express their concerns. And they've done that. We showed them that in that meeting Monday night. And if we can't be any more transparent than that, I don't know what we can be. We've asked for comments. We've asked for the people to make decisions on this problem that we have. And they spoke, and we should listen to them very carefully.
Your Honor,
Yeah,
how long
stop.
ago was how long ago were these surveys taken?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, how when you did this survey thing, how many years did you go back? Did you go back to 19, 20, or just here recently?
The statement, I believe, asked for people to consider the last 2 years.
Okay, in 2 years there's been a lot of changes. And now if you're going to take statements from 2 years ago, a survey that was done 2 years ago, that's not fair either.
But I think the online survey that was out there, that was current.
This isn't from 2 years
Well, the
ago.
online one was some of Don's that he took a couple of years ago.
Well, Tom, do you mean that was read during the public hearing?
Yeah, out of the 700, was that included with the ones that Don put in there?
I'm not sure about that. I don't have that information that they read in front of me. That wasn't part of my
Well,
materials.
that's the thing that kind of irritated me about that public hearing. You had people from Ward 4 stand up and call the CETA board members had no integrity and they were crooks and this and that. And I mean, that was the one wrong.
Well, council member, a public hearing is for people to get up and express their personal opinion. So
Then they should have been in person and expressed it, not behind an anonymous.
we would have to be careful in censoring people's, unless they were being vulgar or profane, I think you would be hard pressed to censor someone during a public hearing.
Then we shouldn't allow that to come on where you're calling people names like that and telling them that they're dishonest and they're crooks. That wasn't right either.
We're having a bit of trouble understanding you.
Talking his
Well, I
phone.
don't know how do I don't think there's any way to clean that up.
Connor. He's still talking. I've been on the council for starting my 7th year, and we've been dealing with this, seems like year after year, and we end up having meetings, with CETA, back and forth, and nothing's getting done. It just continues on. We just gotta make our decision and move on.
And I would argue that considering alternative proposals to leave the CETA entity intact is in response to comments. It is in direct response to comments from CETA staff. I wasn't invited to the special CETA board meeting, but I have read the resolution. I think there was advocacy for keeping the CETA entity intact. I think we heard that from some citizens. I've heard that from some of you as a concern about the housing. So I do think some of this discussion is in response to Councilman Erickson. I don't know if you think that I have not taken input, but I have. And I listened carefully. I've listened carefully to those of you that have reached out to me. I've listened carefully to the public and the comments. One of the comments, and I've been hearing it, I've heard two things. One is that let the CETA entity exist and do its work. Second thing is a desire for a change in leadership. I think we have to be honest in this room, seated as this committee, that is in fact an issue that comes up regularly. It is uncomfortable to talk about in a public meeting, I understand that. But it is something that we are all hearing. And I think it's important that we do not pretend that's not a part of the equation. People have asked for different leadership. People have asked for the CETA entity to continue on and allow housing untouched. I've done my very best with that information to provide you with options. It's not my decision in the end. It is your decision as a council, which you are not seated at tonight. We're not asking you to make a decision. What we're asking for today is consensus, if we can gain consensus on how we move forward. What path do we want to take forward? It would be helpful for us to know that from you.
I am, I am the same with Don. I'm looking at option 3 as well.
I'm also looking at option 3.
Amy, what's your time frame on this? Where do we go if, whatever, if you pick 1 through 4, what's your time frame?
Well, that depends a little bit on what path is taken. So the options 2, 3, and 4 are going to require amendments to the enabling resolution, so that has to be worked. I think we could, anytime you amend an enabling resolution, which is what we talked about initially, it does require a public hearing. I think to be the most transparent and open, if we suggest one of these options that has not been discussed, you would need to call a public hearing. I do not anticipate it would be the same, I don't anticipate the same level of participation as at the first, but we may, and we need to kind of check that and see if we need to adjust a location. But that, it kind of depends on that. So I believe we could be ready for you on Monday with a resolution to call a public hearing, with the public hearing set for July 12th, and have a resolution for you on July 12th to vote on, if we gain a consensus on a direction that we're moving tonight.
I would also say that would lean towards option 3. I think option 1 does not address I don't think option 1 addresses our concerns with housing well enough, and having Oakport in my ward specifically, I know that is probably some of the biggest concerns for our constituents is the housing stability. And so I think that's really an important piece. I think that historically, as I've heard some of the things that have gone round and round with these concerns and questions, I think option 2, in having personal individual hearings about neglect removal and all of those things aren't productive. I don't think there needs to be any more mudslinging, and I think that we need to move forward with something that is going to be, in listening to our constituents, some change. And if nothing else, regardless of what side of this discussion you fall on, I think the theme is change. And I think that for us as a city and the importance of us going forward, those are big things. Those are things that we're seeing in our reports, evidence that we've collected. And I think that's an important piece in considering that. I think that option 4 is not fast enough. And I think that if we're concerned about really being productive and moving forward, I think that that's what we need to do.
Your Honor?
Yes, Wayne.
I guess, from over the last, several years, not just the last several weeks or months, but there has been some problems, and there's been things brought up, and there has never come to a consensus with the city and Cheetah. Like you say, you had your meeting last June or whatever, and there was nothing brought up from Cheetah. You just put your stuff out on the line, and they never came back with anything. I think the most disappointing thing for me right now is we're going through all this, and we've had city, hearings, and yet when Cheetah had their special meeting, there was nothing talked about for options or helping or compromising or laying out, hey, maybe we are going to have to change something. The city folks are saying we need change. They're also saying we don't want to lose Cheetah. So, that board, to me, disappointed in not sitting down and coming up with with their 3 or 4 options. You know, and then now here we are again, and they want time to talk to us. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get where that board is coming from and how they just wait and wait and wait. They don't want to play a card or what, I don't know. I don't get it. But there's things going on that need to be changed. Not everything. The whole program's not wacko. Fix it. Talk about it. What's not working, what is? That's what I'm saying is, and you just didn't address it, and I don't think now that Cheetah Board has put any time into it to think of the other options. So I understand, Steve, about giving you your day in court and your time in there, but you know what? We just keep dragging our feet and doing this and that, and we've never gotten the cooperation, in my book, from Cheetah to solve any problem. And this is an extreme case of how you solve a problem when you can't get cooperation. So I think that's where we're at.
Ask him where he's at.
Wayne, are you leaning on any of the 4 options more than the other, or are you not ready to determine
I'm
that
not
yet?
totally ready yet. I mean, I've read them, and 3 does look like it's, preferable, but I would like to, I just saw them tonight. I didn't get a chance to get here today, so I would like a little, but I knew we weren't going to vote on it tonight either.
Right.
But I know in my mind what the folks have asked me for. I mean, I've had phone calls, on my cell phone. I had phone calls on my landline, and people always like that, because you still got a landline? But I mean, I got that. I got people coming to my house. I get people that catch me uptown. I've gotten text messages. I've gotten emails. And I hope I called everybody back that called, that left a message. I think I got back to everybody. But in general, I would say that they want Cheetah to remain. We need housing, and we need the economic development. The direction is going in the wrong way, and if we're tearing it at 2 different ways, it's not working. And if that board's not willing to make a change, that the council should make the change. The city's at an impasse right now that something has to change. It's as simple as that.
Your Honor?
Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think we should, the council and the Cheetah Board should sit together and see what the council thinks is wrong with it and have a discussion on it. I know myself, I'll make an offer to, if you want change, I'll resign from the Cheetah Board myself. I know Wayne knows what they do, Steve knows what they do, I know what they do. Put Christie or put Clayton or one of the other council members on there, put Delane on there, and they can see what it does. I mean, I'd offer to do that, but I do feel it is very important to keep it. And they do a very good job. Maybe they don't do it the way that some of the council members like it, but it needs to stay. And I feel we need to give them their time and have a meeting before anything's decided. What's it gonna take? A couple of weeks? I mean, we've always talked about that we do things way too fast. This is not something that should be just done bang, bang, bang. And there has, Christy talks about child care and all that stuff. We've been working on child care forever. There's $50,000 sitting out there at Cheetah for anybody that wants to try and start up a daycare. You don't have people jumping on any of that. You can't make something happen that there's not there.
Point taken, Tom.
I hope so.
So what I'm looking for from you, I'm not sure, do you need more time? Are you ready for us to begin working on a particular path? We've heard from 4 of you, but we need a consensus on how to move forward.
I'll make a motion or whatever you want that we,
There's no
set up a
motion,
joint meeting
Tom.
and give them their day in court. I
Tom,
guess.
there's no motion at Ways and Means.
Okay, then I'll just make a suggestion then, that you set up a time in a meeting that they can speak, the city council can speak, they can all speak to each other. City council can tell them what they think is wrong with it, the Cheetah board can give their ideas and their thoughts on it, and let's go from there.
Respectfully, Tom, I feel that we're long past that, and I feel that we need to move on.
I second that motion.
It's already
It's on motion.
No motion. You got it.
I would like to say that option 3 looks the best to me at this point. But I think like everybody here, I think we need to take some time to process this and possibly come up with other questions. I don't think everything that I want to ask right now is going to be, is going to make me feel comfortable enough making an educated decision. And so I think option 2 is a great piece. I would like to look through this, come up with my questions, and I hope that with my fellow council members will do the same, do their own research, and then ask questions that could be answered publicly on the next council meeting for us to make a decision as to where we go from here.
The question I would ask would, does option 3 meet that?
What's that?
Does option 3 meet the expiration that we have to do for questions in the future?
I think what Councilmember Jurdy is saying is just have some time to think about it and maybe have this as a topic on your June 28th meeting. Is that
Yes.
where you were with that?
Yeah, I think that, that like any position, regardless if it's a board or a council, that it's us that have to do the due diligence in really looking at these processes and researching and making sure that we're making the best possible decision. And I want to see, regardless of what we do, to be a very smooth transition. I understand that that's probably asking a lot. What I hope doesn't happen is a scorched earth situation either. And I think that we need to be very strategic in how we go forward. And so I think it is upon us to do research, make sure that we have all of the questions that could possibly needed to know before we make a decision, and go from there. And I think that's the way we should be doing it, right? So,
I think the way, Your Honor, I think the way we should be doing this is to listen to both sides, and then
Tom?
go from there.
Tom, you know, I'm really nervous about having another joint city council meeting because council Cheetah meeting, because after I had the last one, I got scolded by a couple board members from the Cheetah board. So I'm really kind of nervous about having another one. I guess I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again.
Well, you've got big shoulders. If you get scolded once or twice, you should be able to take that. I mean, this is a whole different deal here.
Well, now
What, I don't, that's what I tried to do a year ago to Tom, so we're not in the situation we're in today. That's what I tried to fix.
I think we've got different people, we've got different deals, and I think it should be listened to.
And as I think Tom's trying to say too, is now they know it's coming, and it's their time to say what they have to say on this particular subject. I totally agree with them, so.
After the administrator left because of differences with Cheetah, after our mayor left because of differences with Cheetah, after we've probably lost council members because of differences of Cheetah, and now we're to this point, and now you think Cheetah said, oh, now we should probably be thinking because it's the 11th hour and now we need to do something. So that's when you think they need to come to the table?
You want my opinion on it, you can't bring up the past, let's talk about right now and the
The
future. We're
past is-
talking about the future right now of Crookston, Minnesota, and right now you're bringing up past things. You don't know council members left. You don't know that's the only reason why the mayor left. That's all, no, you do not.
I do.
They do not. And I'm gonna tell you
Well,
right
ask
now,
him.
we have to talk about the future of Crookston, and the only way to do that and get the right aspect of what's going on is give everybody a chance to speak their piece, and we make a decision by listening to everybody from the city of Crookston to Cheetah, to us as city council members, to everybody else. You need to listen to the whole picture.
I happen to be listening to the city residents of Crookston.
So have I. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because I have a different aspect of the people who've called me than you have, like you said earlier. People who call you, people who call Steve, people who call anybody, they're all different.
I mean,
I guess my thing is, I guess I was kind of disappointed. The council was asked to reach out to their constituents. There was 2 council persons that had a kind of a informational meeting. I was hoping Ward 5 would have had one. I was hoping Ward 2, 3.
I contacted.
But at that point in time, the public wasn't informed of everything that was going on, and neither was I. So how am I supposed to hold a meeting unless they're gonna be talking about personal issues and what they feel?
Everything was on the table at.
It was not on the table.
Yes, it was.
No, it was not.
I guess my other thing is that I went to 2 informational meetings and there were no other council members there. You know, I feel that as council, not only do you represent your ward, but you represent the whole city.
So you're scolding us?
I guess I am.
Could
Your Honor,
I, could,
I have been in contact with approximately 40 people. So I have contact, I have information written down, and that's, I'm
Good to know. Thank you.
telling you that, and I'm not gonna release
Mr. Mayor,
anything.
could I just want to interject one, this is more procedural, and I never want to make the assumption that everyone knows, because not all of us come to council meetings, but when we hold a public hearing, that would have been and was an opportunity for any member of the public, including members of Cheetah or affiliated with Cheetah, to speak to you publicly. That was an open invitation. Secondly, anytime there is an agenda item on a regular city council agenda, there is always opportunity for someone to speak. Our public forum is not for items that are on the agenda. When the item is on the agenda, it is an opportunity to speak. I know not everyone understands that, but we are providing opportunities and they have not yet been taken.
But you
Your
have to,
Honor?
you have to also understand that, and you've said it before, in a setting like this, or at a public hearing, people don't feel comfortable doing that. That's why they call us. And they let us know their opinion, because they don't want to do that. They don't feel comfortable doing that, so.
Well, a joint
that's-
meeting will be in the public and you will have a large audience.
And that's fine. That's not saying it's me, I'm saying about public. When people are
Right.
saying people have called them, or they should have
Yeah.
came out to the public hearing, they don't feel comfortable as coming up to a podium in front of 200 people.
That's true.
That's why
Not
they call
everyone
us.
does. And we provided a survey. We've tried to provide various ways for the public to engage.
Your Honor, what kind of got to me though is this meeting tonight as a Ways and Means Committee meeting. Previously, this is where we did all of our stuff. This is where we asked for public input. This is where the discussion actually, in fact, they used to be upstairs and there was few people that showed up. So we moved them down here because there was more people starting to come and we had our Ways and Means Committee afterward. All of a sudden, then we're not having any Ways and Means Committee, we're having them at council. Okay, I get that. Then all of a sudden, now we got this, tonight was a Ways and Means Committee. And I didn't know if you couldn't have a special council meeting, or you just doing this so we're not voting.
You
I understand
certainly,
that.
you certainly could call a special council meeting anytime with the appropriate number, calling it, or the mayor, and being able to convene a quorum. I didn't feel that you would be ready to make a decision tonight.
No, what I'm saying, Amy, I think there might have been some confusion. If I've had some confusion, there might have been confusion with folks that were coming tonight that thought
It-
you were gonna be able,
For
like an
public.
open set forum here again, because that's how our Ways and Means Committee meetings used to be.
Okay.
And it wasn't the Ways and Means Committee, correct me if I'm wrong, more on the financial side? That's why we stopped having them, so to speak?
Yes, that is
Okay.
what the charter says. However, I did not feel you were ready tonight to make a decision. I was trying to allow you time to consider your public input and come and have a discussion with your fellow council persons seated as Ways and Means to alleviate that pressure, and if you are ready to move forward on June 28th, that you would have that opportunity.
Now, on June 28th, you're saying we could wait till July 12th or whatever.
Well-
On the 28th, what's supposed to happen? Is that too late for the Cheetah Board to maybe make their recommendation? If they got together, if they really had something that they wanted to do or say, can they do it they can say it that night, but I mean, is it too late for anything?
Well, if
Or
we're
could they
making,
recommend doing A, B, and C, and there's possible a look at that? I guess that's what probably Tom is
So,
thinking
well,
about too. It's
I
a
mean,
little late,
to-
but,
To me, the recommendation was their last special meeting.
okay.
That was their recommendation. I mean, so what more recommendation are they gonna have after their last meeting where they all
Right.
supported to oppose the city council's decision to do what we're doing?
So what's the opposition of saying, all right, let's do this, give them the chance on the 28th and vote on this on the 12th? Is it 2 weeks gonna make it or break this thing, honestly?
Yeah,
So you just give them their last spiel, give everybody their last spiel. We all make educated decisions on the 12th of July. What is that gonna hurt? That's what kills me is we're in such a hurry on this thing. that
Listen, I know you're talking, we're in such a hurry. This has been going on for a long time.
So
This has
what's
not
one more
been,
week?
it's,
2 more weeks.
well, I
Then we
mean,
make our
Well,
decision on the 12th.
listen, if the
Can I-
consensus here is to wait that
If
long.
you make that the sunset, I'd go along with that. I mean, if you're gonna say, everything's gotta be laid on the table by the 28th, and the council's gonna be ready to make their decision on the 12th.
We
Let
also
me-
heard, we also heard at the public forum that several of them said, this is a very big decision. You need to step back and not be in such a hurry. And that's, I think, what he's trying to say to Steve is,
I heard one person say that.
there was two.
Okay.
Well, I think,
Two of not very many who spoke. So it's not that funny.
I think what I heard thematically was more about slower change. And I think these options really provide that. But again, I feel like it's drawing out. I feel that, the resolution to not dissolve themselves clearly stated their feelings. I just wonder what is going to be productive in allowing that to happen when there's already so many concerns by citizens that's going to be different than all the other times. And so I'm all for, hearing people out, but I think they also have the option of doing it publicly. And I get what you're saying, Joe, about some people don't like to talk publicly, but if Cheetah has the opportunity of talking publicly and they don't want to talk publicly there, how is that different than talking publicly here?
But publicly having 3 minutes is different than publicly being able to speak their whole piece.
Is it,
Many people got cut off because their 3 minutes
Right,
ended.
right.
So there's no way that Cheetah could have spoke in 3 minutes or maybe 5 of them
Sure.
speaking 3 minutes to have us all hear a good opinion of what they think and make our good opinion on what we should do.
that's why they didn't talk, you think?
What, they talk different? No,
No,
they have
do
plenty
you
of
think that's
time.
why they didn't talk? I'm asking.
I don't know that, I'm not
Okay.
Cheetah. I
Well-
have no idea, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm assuming because
Sure.
that you have 3 minutes to speak, there's no way they can
Sure.
get it in 3 minutes.
Sure. I feel like we're dealing with a lot of semantics here,
I
and
will
there's a lot of back
say-
and forth. I just wonder if,
I will say, let's talk what it would look like. So hypothetically, on June 28th, we have an agenda item for members of Cheetah to speak to the council. At some point, staff will need the city council to make a determination on what direction we want to go. If a determination is made on June 28th by the council on a particular path or a decision, the earliest opportunity to get that before you is July 12th, and that would be to likely call a public hearing. The next meeting, what's that date? July 26th, then would be your opportunity to hold a public hearing and vote on a resolution dependent on the path that you selected. So just looking at that as process, that's how that would look and how it would shift down on your meeting calendar.
I think that's transparency for everybody. I mean, both sides, it's do or die there. It's like, then you make your decision, but at least everybody had their opinion. And I just think that's the only fair way to do it. And, you know, like I said, we need to have everybody's input, so everybody's educated, hear both sides of the story, so I can make an educated guess to say, this is what I think I would do for my constituents. So it's one of those things, I don't think the time frame is that big a deal to wait an extra 2 weeks. I really don't.
Can we have a, is it possible then,
Elaine?
is it possible then to have an open forum next Monday and then have a vote right after that?
On which,
On our option, like, if our consensus here is option 3,
certainly,
can we have a vote? Well, I mean, I propose that we move forward
So-
with that option.
what that would look like, let's make an assumption today, we get a consensus on a path to move forward. You could certainly have on the agenda time for members of CHETA to speak, followed by a resolution calling or setting a public hearing on the path that was determined. You certainly could do that. And remember that, council, you can vote no, you can vote to table things. If there's something that comes up, having something on the agenda, again, you're not bound to that. So if you'd like to have something on the agenda with the ability to make a different decision, you're able to do that and allow feedback. That is certainly an option for you. We would have to have a consensus on which direction you would want to see enable us to do that on the 28th.
I mean,
I
that's-
would
so
also
that's-
like, I would also like to suggest, if I may, that we read CHETA's resolution, all the members of the council. Make sure you read through that and be informed of what the resolution is.
So we have, sounds like we have 2 proposals, one for next week and one,
Determining a path. I believe there's a consensus, I think. I might need a better feel for this let me know your thoughts if we have a consensus on having an agenda item to specifically allow CHETA member feedback. Where I think we're not quite decided yet is whether or not we're going to determine a path today by consensus, or if you're waiting to make that decision on the 28th. I think those are the two, maybe things we.
I suppose I can't ask them a question. I mean, for CHETA, I mean, they've got that resolution that they went through and they voted on, and they pretty much said no to whatever you're doing here, and here's what we want it to stay at. Is there any chance of a compromise or any chance of a proposal? Or are we wasting our time and we should just move forward?
for me personally, for my vote, if it gets the director of CHETA under the city administrator and under the council, that's the only path that I can see myself going for. I can't see it being separate any further than what we have to do, right? I mean, it's just been going on too long. The city, in my opinion, the city residents have spoken, and I printed that out, and I looked at a ton of comments, and it's a lot of comments that say they have to get under the city administrator and under our authority.
And I do want to just clarify a matter of language. It would not be CHETA director under the city, but the economic development,
Right.
activity and community development director.
Your Honor, I think what we need to do is hear them out on the 28th and wait till the 12th to make our decisions. Think about it.
So should we go
See if
around
there's
and
any
see-
other public comments after hearing what CHETA has to say, what the CHETA board has to say.
I guess if we're gonna hear from the CHETA board, I'd also like to see a decision made that night on the 28th too, what direction as a council we're gonna go. I guess I'm not really in favor of waiting another 2 weeks after the 28th to come to that decision.
Does it not have to go to a public hearing after that point?
The decision is determining a path that enables city staff to get the resolution before you to call a public hearing, but it has to be very specific. So council must make a decision on what path you want to go in order for us to produce a resolution. So the decision
what-
would be what path.
What's that public hearing gonna be about? Now, we just had a public hearing, 2 of them.
Tom, the public hearing is required by statute if you are recommending an amendment or modification to an enabling resolution of, in this case, the Cheetah Board. It's a matter of law, it cannot be avoided.
So basically, on the 28th, we could have Cheetah speak, and then we'd have to make a resolution to have a public hearing?
No. If a decision is not made this evening for staff to get consensus on what option you would want to choose, or any option, on the 28th, seated as city council, it will be an agenda item for you to determine one of these options or provide another that helps us make a resolution for you that we could not put before you any earlier than July 12th. July 12th, you would call a public hearing for July 26th.
So we have 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 people for option 3. Now, Dale, in this situation, in Ways and Means, do you have a vote?
I asked that question. I guess in the past, the mayor's already had a vote at Ways and Means. So if that's,
Mr. Reynolds, can you weigh in, please?
There's no voting at the
Or
Ways
an
and Means.
An
What the Ways and Means does is discuss, and if there is a consensus, let's just, you're hypothetical, you say, there's people who want option 3. Okay, what that does then is to say, draw us a resolution that puts forward option 3. Bring it to the council meeting, next council meeting on the 28th. It's an action item, open for discussion. Anyone in the audience, anyone who has concerns can bring those during the public part of the meeting. You can discuss it, you can vote it up, you can vote it down, but what is happening is you have something before you. As you stand right now, no consensus, you don't have anything that can be brought forward at the next meeting. Whatever option, 1, 4, 3, you need a consensus to allow staff to prepare, to allow resolutions to be drafted, to put on the agenda.
So what he asked was, does the mayor have part of that consensus, or since we are a strong council, weak mayors, is it just the council that has consensus at this point?
At this point in time, again, not voting, you can say, do we have a consensus? That will give you an indication of what could occur when you vote, okay? It could be, if the mayor says, I think, whatever, we shouldn't have a resolution. We should have. It's not a formal vote. That is a consensus of the council.
Council.
Does the consensus have to be 100%?
No, a consensus is just that. It is more than 50%. It's a consensus. It doesn't have to be 66. There's no number. But you need to have a path forward, as the city administrator said, to get something in front of the council when it sits as a deliberative body and vote. So whatever number you pick, if you pick one, that's the resolution that is crafted to bring forward for you at the next council meeting. And then you discuss. And then you decide. Can vote, yes, we want that. No, we don't.
So if there's a resolution or a consensus for option number 3, bring forward next
If that's
meeting?
the consensus, then a resolution is drafted that sets forth what is set forth in option number 3. Becomes an action item at the council level for discussion, for debate, for action. Up, down, table, it's subject to all of those options, but it is something that is then before you as a group.
Going to be amended at that time before?
You can propose amendments at
And
the
then vote on the
time,
amendment.
and then vote on the amendment, and then do
Okay,
this,
that-
yes. But before you can have an action item, you have to have a resolution. Whatever that is, 1, 4, 3, 2.
Well, I think I agree with Christie that since we just got these tonight, I feel that we need to do our homework and we need to figure out what plan is best, and I think this is in too much of a hurry, and I hear what she's having to say. She kind of looked through them as well as the rest of us did. Number 3 option seems to be the best for a lot of people, but at this point in time, I'm not willing to say my piece on that one.
Sure. I would like to say that I think we should have a resolution drawn up next meeting, because what will happen at the next meeting, if we do decide that Cheetah is going to share their piece, is that they decide to share their piece, we vote, it then goes to a public hearing again, and that is where the public is now aware of our new suggestion for how we move forward with Cheetah. But we've now heard from the council, or the Cheetah members, right? We've now provided the opportunity for the public to listen, and then we make our educated guess.
Is that how it would go, Amy, then? Is if we vote on it, it's a done deal,
No,
correct?
no, sir. If you vote, what you would be voting on is a resolution to call a public hearing. The
Next
early-
meeting.
No, sir. The resolution before you would say, be it resolved that a public hearing will be held on July 12th, that is the earliest opportunity, at 7 PM for whatever option. You would only be approving the setting of the date and time and place of a public hearing, which could not be held any sooner without a special meeting. And we have to meet publication deadlines, so likely not before July 12th. July 12th, then, the public hearing would be held with a resolution following, that would follow the same path as your public hearings. It has to be the same reason. On the 12th, you would vote, and if you want to call it a done deal, that is when final action would be taken.
So in my mind, that would give us plenty of time. That's given the time that Steve is looking for to get the public hearing and to get Cheetah the opportunity to say their piece next Monday, and, I mean,
That's what I'm looking for too. I mean, that's why I keep asking these questions. As long as it goes to our next Monday's meeting, goes on from there to a public hearing,
Yes.
Cheetah gets his time
Yeah.
to speak, and then we will make our decision on the 12th.
so I think what Amy's looking for is a consensus on the option. Am I correct?
That would be, yes.
So I mean,
I would like to support option number 3.
And that's what's important, is that, we'll use option number 3 as hypothetical. You say, we have a consensus, draft a resolution that contains the provision in option number 3. That is brought forward at your next council meeting, the 28th. It's open for discussion, but what they'd be voting on, you as a council, is, are we going to set a public hearing for a time down the road, the 12th of July, another public hearing where everyone can speak or not speak, they can offer their suggestions, and then there is a vote at that time. Number 3 up, number 3 down. But there is another public hearing prior to any vote of this council seated as a council.
without voting, how do we come to a consensus? I mean, that's what I'm trying to
Oh.
figure out.
Majority rule around the table here, if,
That's a consensus. That's a consensus.
okay?
I'm not saying I'm gonna vote for it as such, but I'd say that right now, option 3 looks like the best alternative to me.
And tonight, our consensus on what path you want to see before you does not mean you are announcing if you are a yes or no on that, and shouldn't mean that. What you're telling us is, we want to see a resolution before us at our next council meeting to vote on. So supporting to see it on next council doesn't mean that you have to lock in or that you should be held accountable by anyone watching, listening, or in this room, that when the time to come to vote, that is when your vote will count.
All this is say, get us something to be able to talk about, to have public input at the next council meeting to decide whether we are going to call a public hearing regarding the resolution that's put before you at the next council meeting. And again, you're not making a deliberative determination tonight that will lock you in on any vote in the future.
I do want to get, because it is important to me to understand that I'm clear on your expectations and direction. I just want to restate what I'm asking of you. Many of you have mentioned option number 3. I've written 6 down, but what I'd like to know is there a consensus to see a resolution to call a public hearing on option number 3 with an item before that on the agenda? I'm not sure what the wording will look like yet, but to allow members of the Cheetah Board to speak to you as the council ahead of that? Is there consensus?
And a public hearing afterwards, as far as what I'm concerned.
Well, your resolution before you will be calling a public hearing. Yes, yes. Is there consensus
Yes.
on that?
So when you say that, that means that Cheetah can come and address the council and then not a 3-minute deal. They get a certain amount of time to address, say 10 minutes, 5
Well,
minutes,
because this
whatever.
just came up this evening, I would certainly want to sit and talk to our mayor about what that should look like. Do you want to leave it wide open? I don't know.
I think they need more than 15 minutes.
Maybe it could be wide open for X number of, I don't want to filibuster here, we're here till midnight, but I mean,
I agree. I think there's some things that we can suggest or continue within organized and efficient meeting without the intent, Mr. Kressel, to cut anyone off. And with the crowd we expected and anticipated at the last public hearing, we were trying to be fair and allow everyone an opportunity to speak without running us until midnight. So we did the best we could on that.
No, I understand that, but I just think at this point in time, generally, you get 15 minutes at the podium before a council meeting to display, and I don't think that's enough time either.
So do we?
You gotta come up with a certain time, however that may be, if it's
Yes,
30
and-
minutes or whatever it's gonna be, you know. I don't
And maybe
think-
that's appropriate to allow a block of time. I will need to sit and talk to the mayor in the same way that you all were not prepared to make a final decision tonight. I cannot either be expected to come up with a solid plan on the fly.
So I'm wondering, okay, if you want input from the Cheetah Board, let them talk on the 28th. The public that wants to offer their input would talk at our public hearing.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So I'm just wondering, nobody else on the 28th, just Cheetah Board members?
Just Cheetah and then public hearing on, 12.
Is that allowable?
I don't know.
Not allow anybody else to speak?
There,
I don't
there,
think we want to.
I don't know.
You can't just say nobody else can talk.
no.
You would follow the same procedure as normal. If someone wishes to address the council that's on an item that's not on the agenda, please step forward and address us for 3 minutes.
but this would be on the agenda.
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
Calling of the public hearing, yes.
That's the
Cheetah
issue.
talking would be on the agenda.
Yes, yes, as an item, as an
Yes.
agenda item,
Sure.
clearly stated with some kind of parameters that I will work with the mayor to determine after this meeting at some point in the future.
I would like to
I
say,
got a question on that.
Yes,
Okay,
Tom?
you've got all the council right there. Our charter says we've got a strong council, weak mayor. So why are you discussing with the mayor and not the council now and see how they want to work this?
It's about how long we let everybody speak.
Right,
At
but
the
you've got
open.
the council right there. How long do they want them to speak? Do we want to let them have their say, or do we want to limit them?
So if it's up to me, I'm saying 5 minutes.
No, I think that's the privilege of the mayor to set that.
Yeah. I would like to make the best use of our time, and I don't want this to be just free-for-all. I would like the Cheetah Board, if they're to address us, to specifically address the concerns that have been brought forward by our constituents, and that we have very clear talking points about what is being addressed, and that this isn't a PowerPoint. This is literally talking about the concerns that have been brought forward from the public.
So I guess the next question is, do we got a consensus to go with which option?
3.
I haven't seen any of those options.
Tom, they're in your
I'm
email.
not there.
Tom, they're in
Pardon
your,
me?
they're in your email. I sent them to you as you were not here to collect your paper item on your desk.
Yeah, when did you send them?
When did I? This evening.
Okay, because I guess I was zoomed into the meeting, so I haven't seen them. And then I clicked off of it to try and make the volume work better.
So,
Are we looking at the options? Is that what you're?
options, yeah, so that Amy can move forward for the 28th.
I'll still stay with option 3.
Anybody else?
3.
3? I'm going with 3.
My main concern is that Cheetah gets to speak.
Tom, that will be an agenda item on the next agenda.
Okay.
So that's,
As far as option goes, I'm not on the internet right now, so I can't tell you.
so that's consensus right there, we've got enough. Is that right?
I believe we could move forward with presenting you a resolution to call a public hearing, set a time and date and place. For option 3, we'll get that out to you. You will see it in the agenda packet when it's released, so watch your emails for that. Friday, prior to the June 28th meeting, watch your emails so you can read that. Then if you have questions, I encourage you, as always, to please reach out to me so that I can help you or I can be prepared to answer your questions if you have some at the meeting. Prior to that resolution to call a public hearing on the agenda, we will have an agenda item for the Cheetah Board members to address the council.
I will be zoomed again on the 28th, but I will be back for the 12th.
All right,
Okay,
thank you,
thank you.
Tom. I guess we're set then.
I believe I have what I need to prepare for the next meeting.
All right,
Thank you all.
we are adjourned.